We want to give a shout out to Steven with We Rock the Spectrum. We Rock the Spectrum is an inclusive sensory-based gym committed to providing a fun, safe, and welcoming environment for children of all ages and abilities. So if you're in town or in the Franklin area, please go check them out. Welcome to another episode of the Nashville Dads. This week, we have on Chris Wolfe of Wolfe PT and Michael Kidder of the Crag. We talk about friendship, enneagram, and making time for yourself. We hope you enjoy.
Learning a hell of a lot that I don't know anything. That's basically my...
Yes.
It doesn't get better.
It doesn't? Oh, wonderful.
Well, I think what I keep finding is you start caring less about the younger two because you've seen it all before and you figure out this is okay. But your oldest one is still those are all new chapters.
Yeah.
And I can give advice on everything from 7.5 to 0, but I have nothing. It's like trailblazing forward, and you're like, okay. So I'm not sure it gets better if you have more children.
Yeah.
But as they are getting older, then no.
And you have 3. Devin has 3. Michael, how many do you have? You got
2.
2. And how old?
12 and 14.
Okay. So a little older.
So, yeah. And it's funny because, like, with the girl-boy thing, I grew up in a family of boys. I was the oldest, right? I totally believe in the birth order thing. At a certain level, you see different things, and I've read the books, too, right? We've all read the books. But the trick is, like, suddenly I had a daughter, and she's the firstborn and does, like, the firstborn things.
Yeah.
But then she became a teenager and has hormones. And I'm like, I don't know anything about oldest born females, I realize, right? So you're going down that road. And until that point, you've just been reacting. I'm like, oh, yeah, oldest born. And it really, the female teenager firstborn thing was when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. Yep. So, but then my younger one is 12. He's all boy. Just, hey, man, go run through that wall, endless energy. Mother's curse kind of thing. So, yes. But 2 was, Chris and I, as friends, I kind of laughed because I'm like, when he told me he was having a third, I was like, whew, I'm glad you're doing it on me.
There's a whole story that goes along with that. Having a third, finding out that we're having a third. And because you're the oldest of 3.
Of 3, yeah.
I'm the youngest, and I had 2 older sisters. And so being around girls and watching them go through teenage years and all the hormones kicking in, I was somewhat used to that. Now, I'm not to that point yet with my children, but I think I'm just going to take it in stride. I'll just keep running more, keep
3
working
girls.
out more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The what was the age, Rick? Because the interesting thing about growing up for me was we were all 4 years apart. My dad was an engineer, so you do some math, like they try, right? So it was interesting as the oldest, like my youngest sibling was 8 years younger. So I was moving out of the house to go to college, and he was 10. I was kind of uninterested in a 10-year-old sibling. And then we caught up to it later in life, and I probably like him more than the middle one. The middle one knows this, so we're comfortable saying it. But it's interesting because I have friends that have 3 and 4 kids, and they're more compact in the age gap. And so together. It's like yours are like that, where I'm like, man, 3 and a 5.5. Is that right? What's the gap between your oldest and youngest?
So my oldest is 7.5. She'll be 8 in October. And my youngest will be 2 in August.
Okay.
So really about 6 years difference. Yeah. So when she's 18, I'll have a 12. She'll be 12.
Yeah.
So she'll be moving out to go to college. I'll have a 12-year-old.
I can't even think of Isla being 18.
I know. Think about the fact that she'll be 8 and it's only 10 years away.
I know. I remember being at the Chattanooga Ironman and Callie still being pregnant.
That's right.
September. Ironman.
That's right. In fact, I was wearing my Ironman shirt today, commemorating the fact that the half Ironman distance was going on today, and I had at least 4 people down there doing it that I knew. and I was tracking them
You
today.
were there for that too.
Uh-huh.
Because again,
Yeah.
these are accidentally intersecting into this relationship, like you two. I showed up because I'm in the climbing gym business, right?
Yeah.
And I volunteered with the American Alpine Club, and there happened to be like a outdoor rec event in Chattanooga. And Chris was like, man, do you want to come down this thing? I said, hilariously, I'll come down and high five you because I got to come to this nonprofit event and do that. And I had forgotten you were there until now we're talking about it again. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
Callie,
you rented that condo. We were just hanging out. But
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah, we
was
had
your big
Airbnb.
grand hurrah before you had the baby.
We had
Yep.
Airbnb,
Okay.
and we had everybody down there for it. Callie that was September 25th or 26th, because our anniversary is September 26th.
Yeah.
And I think it was either on our anniversary or the day right before, because we stayed in Chattanooga for a few days after that, checked into a bed and breakfast, but we had the Airbnb rented for that weekend, and Callie was 8 months pregnant, and after I did that race, she showed me her watch that was clocking her steps, and she had walked a half marathon that day.
Dude,
You were 8 months pregnant?
8 months pregnant.
we walked everywhere because, we had a whole bunch of friends down there. Marcus, Sarah, Dresa.
Yeah,
I can't
that's
remember who
right.
else. And Callie had it all mapped out of where to go to see him next.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you know what an Ironman is.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is
No,
freaking
they're insane.
crazy
Yeah.
insane. Swim 2 miles, a full marathon, and then a 100-mile bike ride.
Roughly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
2.4-mile swim.
I would have been dead after that.
It's typically 112 miles on the bike,
Oh,
but
I'm
Chattanooga does 116 miles. They added 4 extra miles there. They make up for it because they give you a really easy swim downstream. But then you do a marathon on the back end of that.
A
And
full marathon.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And this guy was skipping when he
And,
finished.
that's when you know you didn't push hard enough. But
You could.
Hey, you
Why didn't
finished,
you leave
man.
it out on the field,
You
man?
finished.
but
That's impressive.
I've never ran 5 miles. So.
well, I just remember Callie looked at her watch and she looked at me because she had been coming to most of my races at that point, and she looked at me and she was like, "I'm done. I'm not doing this again."
Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, okay, I've gotten several years, and I think I raced for probably 4 years at that point. And that was the year that Kidder and I actually met back in February, January, February of that same year. And Kidder is a marathon runner, and I was completing my last triathlon, concluding with the Ironman. And after that, I just shifted back to one sport. And so Kidder and I started hanging out more together, surviving fatherhood just by training for marathons together.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what we just started doing that for years and years and years.
Marathon's better than kicking the dog when you get home, really. So,
Yes.
but no.
That was your guys' stress release, just kind of block everything else out type of deal.
Yeah, we just spend a lot of time together. We actually, we talk nonstop during our runs, but training for an event, having something on the schedule that's forced you to get out of the house,
Yeah.
and being able to have support with one another worked really well
It
during
did.
stressful times.
Yeah. And we're both, even at the time, and Chris right after that got into it. It's funny because you guys interview entrepreneurs and whoever else, I don't know, different dads do different things, man. We are neither one, which is probably why we get along and are such good friends. Like, we have too many jobs, right?
Yeah.
So I have a day job and own a company, and then you're trying to parent, and probably to a lot of people that speaks. I love the people that they're like, I can't fathom doing that. And then in the middle you go, yeah, I tend to run 50, 60 miles a week, right? All before 7 a.m. And Chris was the same way, except he was crazier because he's like doing it on a bike on Saturdays too.
Yeah.
I used to be, to turn it into the exercise podcast for a second, it used to be like I would do that kind of stuff at night, and I was going climbing, and you have all that time. And then as a dad, you're like, well, I'm either going to be a loser dad, or I've got to find some time to try and be home at night and try and be present.
Yeah.
And so that was like the switch where I turned into a morning runner, and I really hated morning. And Chris is still, he beats me at this because he's like, running at 4 a.m. tomorrow. I'm like, not a chance, dude. I don't do 4 a.m. But but still, for some people, they're like, 4 a.m.'s not even that bad, right? But at the same time, I mean, like, we're hitting the trails out at Percy Warner, doing stuff like that, and it's all sometimes in the dark when you start. Yeah. But that's the deal when, then you got a job and another job, and then you're trying to the job of a dad. So it's kind of funny. So that's usually what you also dog cuss it, like, about, in the morning, and you vent. So it's good, but it's healthy, right? So.
Well, the only way that it works is really well is if you have somebody there waiting on you. So having a buddy system that drags you out of bed, because before we even had kids, Callie and I was trying to start training for triathlon, and I had this grand scheme that I would do some workouts in the morning, and then I would come home in the evening. I would do other workouts as well. And I found out really fast in a new marriage, trying to do a workout in the afternoon, the evening was like, that was not going to happen.
Yeah.
And Callie was like, no, this is not going to happen. Like, when do we actually see one another? So then everything just shifted into the morning. And then I found out that if I don't get it done before normal people start waking up, it just wasn't going to get done. And then it just proved to be even, that just proved to be more true when I started having kiddos. Like, they wake up at the same time every day, no matter what time you go to bed.
Yep.
They're going to wake up.
That's right.
And whatever you want to get done in the quiet of the morning or any form of exercise has to happen before they wake up. So that's when I just started adopting that. And so having a buddy system, I just knew that I couldn't do it anything in the 4 o'clock hour, because Kidder has a life rule that he doesn't see the 4 o'clock hour.
I don't set an alarm if it's in 4 dot or colon XX anything. That doesn't happen. So yeah.
So we just started getting it in the morning times. Most of the time together, sometimes alone, and then long weekends. But most of the time we're discussing life, work, because we both own businesses. We also work at other jobs as well, and we have life, kid stress going on. So talking through all of that is therapy in and of itself, and it's helpful to know that you're not alone in most crazy things happening. And his kids are obviously older than mine. He got to see us when Callie was pregnant and watch us go through all these stages. So talking with him about so what did you experience when they were acting this way and things like that?
Awesome. And talking about your jobs, I mean, I know you have a million jobs, a million things that you're doing.
Just two.
I have no idea. Well, just two. But Michael, what do you do?
So yeah, it's a great question. So I am an enterprise salesperson for a Microsoft consulting company. We have offices here, but we're headquartered in Salt Lake. It's a company called Journey Team, and we specialize in all the business software that Microsoft doesn't implement their own things. They actually have a partner network. So I spend my day talking to the C-suite about the delta from an organizational change, from the cost of the software. They're usually already going down that road, right? But it's me kind of slinging consultant services, right? And then the Moonlight thing is I'm passionate about climbing, like I do mountain climbing and all these other things, whole nother podcast subject, right? But I accidentally, because of that passion, stumbled into owning 2 climbing gyms called the Crag. We've got one that's right at the border in Nashville, but it's on the Williamson-Davidson line. And then we've got one that's down in Franklin. And it's, technically, I think on the operating agreement, it says non-operational. I put an awful lot of time in for a non-operational partner, as I'm sure many people listening to this can relate. But the reality is, when you own the thing, like in your name's on the logo, right? Like you have, like you love it and you want to spend time there. And at the same time, not in a bad way, I just never envisioned myself working in that space. My business partner is CEO, and she runs the organization. We're very proud that we've got, it's mostly female run, which is kind of cool. And then the background is Kidder, that's my last name, and doing the thing. But it does, like, that tension. And again, then you add in family stuff, which is probably why Chris and I are kind of laughing. You're like, how's your job today? And we kind of smirk and go, which one? Yeah. Because you're kind of living in both lives. And that's good. It's fun. I know lots of people like that, but at the same time, it creates its own sort of stresses. So
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I know, Chris, you've got your own business,
Yeah.
Wolfe PT.
Yeah.
Then, are you still a professor for Belmont?
Yep. So when I started my practice in 2017, I was an adjunct for Belmont University in the physical therapy department. So that then kept leading into being a full-time lecturer. And then this past fall, I was able to gain enough experience, build my CV to the point where I could be competitive when they started looking for a full-time professor, and position myself where I was a good candidate. And so I got that job to be a full-time assistant professor at Belmont in the PT department. So that I just completed my first fall and spring as a full-time professor.
Awesome.
Nice.
Which has been good. I mean, so technically that's my 6th year doing it, but it's my first full-time year, although I felt like I was acting as like a full-time professor for a long time. But that allowed me to help build the practice for the past 6 years. 5.5 will be 6 years this coming October. And we have myself, along with 2 other business partners and owners, own and operate Wolfe Performance Therapy, Wolfe PT, where we do like performance healthcare and physical therapy. And that is amazing in all the right ways. And I've had the privilege of teaching and hiring many of my students out of Belmont, which is
That's cool.
incredible. So putting them through the longest job interview of their entire lives.
yeah.
It's a 3-year program, knowing them, watching them when they're in their highest stress level, mentoring them, discipling them, kind of like a father, you know, and you're in this kind of like dichotomous relationship, and then eventually you become colleagues after 3 years, and then you start talking to them about what they want to do in their future, and then I get to figure out if this person is really worth pouring into for like long-term success. And it's been having those 2 jobs blend so easily together. That's probably the only way I can do both of those. But also having 2 amazing partners and a fantastic practice manager help me kind of run the day-to-day operations side. That's the only way that's able to continue.
Yeah.
So
How does schooling work for physical therapy? Do you do undergrad then 3 years of PT school?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you undergraduate degree, and as long as you meet your prerequisites, then you can apply to get in. So it doesn't have to always be the same degree. Some people are coming in pre-med. Most people find that they get in through like exercise science. We have some business. We have some non-traditional students that basically have maybe did a different degree, had a different job, and then they decided they wanted to go to a graduate program. So as long as you got your prerequisites, you can apply. And there's an interview process. You take a GRE exam. Those scores, depending upon the program you try to apply to, they're sometimes weighted more heavily than others. And then it's a 3-year program.
Cool.
3-year program, all didactic, along with clinical rotations built in.
Okay.
And then once you get done, you take your licensing boards following that.
Nice.
And it's been fantastic. Belmont's had a program for over 20 years, probably 22 years now.
Yeah. I feel like they've put more money into it in the last like decade or so.
Yeah, I mean Belmont's just been they've been doing things a really good way of just expanding things a lot. And I've been associated with that university for a long time, and being on their board of advisors from like an outside looking in, taking a lot of their students for clinicals. I love that program. And I always had aspirations to do some form of teaching, because you don't get into PT if you just don't love like teaching to some degree. That's what we do. And having that opportunity, I had some other opportunities to teach for some other universities on a small level. I just didn't want to do that. And then Belmont came available, made some good connections there, and that's been awesome. That's been incredible.
I went to Belmont from like 2006 to 2010.
Yeah.
And the physical therapy building, I feel like whenever I was there, was like, now it's the maintenance building.
Well, that was, so that's so funny. So they still have that same building.
Yeah.
Maintenance, but also that's the cadaver lab now.
Wait, what?
Yes. That could be a different podcast too. Yeah. So it's not just, I mean, like any really
Lots of
form of
podcast
medicine, you're going to
subjects
spend some time in
Yeah.
the cadaver lab. So that is the
Hold on a
cadaver
second.
lab.
You, like, as physical therapists,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
I
And you
was
spend
in-
you have an entire
Ugh.
class, like at gross anatomy, you spend an entire semester dissecting. And
And it's
we,
called gross?
well,
Gross anatomy.
like,
Grouse.
yeah, exactly.
That's a dad joke. Yeah.
That would say
That's
we're
a
pretty
dad
good at
joke.
this. Of course, it's called gross anatomy. Why would you call it anything
yeah.
else?
Exactly.
Yeah, meaning like you're covering a large, the full body,
Gotcha.
being like the gross amount, right?
Yes.
The full amount. So you're doing not just like one body part
Yeah.
or just the leg or the thigh, but you're going from neck all the way down to the foot.
Cool.
And we have professors that's what they specialize in. And that building now is used for the anatomy lab. Prior to that, we were having to have a contract with Vanderbilt, so we would use their anatomy lab that they use for medicine until we were able to expand. And you're right, it was probably in 2000, I don't know, 10 maybe, they moved into the new building.
Cool.
And we're probably going to watch that expand even more because now they have a med school that's just getting started.
Yep.
That building is being built. So it'll be interesting to kind of watch how we interact with them, how things continue to expand there
Yeah.
as well. But
I
they're
was-
doing things the right way.
I was in RA at Commons, which is like the dorms or apartments that are right next to it. So I always like park, and I'd be like, "Am I parking in the physical therapy parking lot? Like, is this? Am I gonna? No, I'm not gonna get towed." And I would be like, "Oh, I guess we have a physical therapy degree here, and there's the building."
That's
So
right.
There we go.
That's
awesome.
That's exactly right. That had been a vision, branching out and starting their own practice for a long time, and just you talk about it for a while, and obviously knowing Kidder in 2015 as well, him being an entrepreneur, we talked about it nonstop. We jumped basically from, what are your kids doing today, and how are you handling this situation, to, hey, let's talk about the job now. How's this happening? And he watched me kind of work through that mentally and gear up enough mental strength and enough mental fortitude, and probably just some like frustration with the current job that I was holding, probably personally, to the point where I knew it was time to make a jump.
Yeah.
When did you open the clinic? Was the actual
2017. So it was technically it was August 2017. I put in my notice in June. I put my notice in June of 2017 with the intent of opening the practice in like end of August, beginning of September.
Okay.
And I put my notice in. This is the story I always tell, like how I got into Belmont, because I get that question a lot. Because a lot of people want to like ask me, hey, I want to get into academia. Can you give me some advice on how I can get that started? And I'm like, there's probably no way it's going to happen the way that it happened for me. Because it just, I put in my notice in on Tuesday, and by Friday, word had spread that I was leaving the job that I was in, because I was in that job for 11 years.
Yeah.
And it was the only PT company I'd ever worked for. And it was great, but it was just to the point where I knew I needed to make a change. It was time to make a change, make a little bit of a difference. And the fear of that was just a little bit less than just staying where I was. And that's the tipping point when you're actually going to make that jump. I put my notice in on Tuesday. The gentleman who is my academic mentor called me on a Friday. He found out that I was leaving, and it was just by happenstance that his co-professor that he teaches with was on sabbatical starting in the fall. The resident that was supposed to help him teach in the fall, because his co-colleague was on sabbatical, left the residency to take a job with a major league hockey team.
Okay.
And so he was going to be left like teaching this big major class by himself. And then just when he found that out, he and I knew one another.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great relationship just because we didn't spend a lot of time together, but we knew a lot of the same people. His wife worked in the clinic that I was managing at the time. And so when he heard that, he called me and said, I need an adjunct professor starting in like a few months. I was like, okay, I can do that, but I have a vacation planned, and so I'm going to miss the first week of class. That's how I always tell everybody. That's how you want to start a new job. You show up a week late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
Power
fine.
move.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He's like, that's totally fine. And he knew that the Belmont, at that point, they were about to expand their class size. They were going to have some other professors come on board. He knew that was happening, and he basically just pitched to me. He said, hey, we are going to be hiring somebody for this position full time. If that's of interest to you, let me help coach you on like how to like position yourself so you would be a good candidate for that. And so I battled it for a long time, for years, because I was starting my own practice, and I knew I thought I wasn't going to be able to do both.
Yeah.
But knowing Kidder, I watched Kidder do two things at one time as well. So we talked about business, again, parenthood, nonstop, and
why our wives were angry with us not being around.
Yeah.
So to add color to this, we opened our second location, which was twice as big, in October of 2017. Mm-hmm. So Chris and I were both guys that had one job, and we were exercising like crazy, and younger kids or no kids, right? And I with younger him, which at a certain level you can just manage more because they go to bed early and they don't wake, all those kinds of things. They don't talk back yet, and they're not asking for money or a driver's license. And so it was interesting that at the same time I was already going, man, I'm getting ready to have a second job that I didn't know I wanted. Mm-hmm. Chris is like, I'm going to move my first job to this other, but now I got this other great offer. What do you think I should do? I was like, well, I don't freaking know. I'm already doing it, man. So we were going on runs at 6 a.m. and I'm like, so how's the job thing? He's like, which one? And I'm like, well, you're going to take the, are you an entrepreneur posing as an academician, or an academician, moonlighting as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Which has really been always the funny conversation.
It's never been answered.
Neither one of us have ever answered
Don't know
it.
if there's an answer.
I don't know.
The answer is yes.
The answer is very much yes. And it's not and/or, it is.
It's yes.
Exactly. The answer is yes.
Both and.
And we always kind of, we've never had a formal NDA between the two of us, but if we had boards, we neither one have boards to our business, but we would both be on the board of directors for the other, just because we show up going, here's what happened this week. I'm like, oh yeah, man, tell me, and having a business, especially when you have a quote unquote day job, you don't get to vent about the thing you own at the day job necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So necessarily, maybe. But so it's this thing, like where do you go to have the business headspace conversation?
Yeah.
That's not the business. Mm-hmm. You do it on the run, right? At 6 a.m. And you're like, here's the thing, man, my business partner is driving me crazy, or my wife's driving me crazy, or, like no one wants employees. I love my employees, but you're like, I have like teenagers all the way to adults. We have like 45 people that work for us. I'm like, where do you vent about that?
Yeah.
Anytime anyone's like, I want to manage people, I'm like, you want the money of a manager.
You want the money
You've never managed someone
That's
before.
right.
That's what you just told me.
That's right.
Yep.
In a world where it's like, that's for both of us, it's like we also have these other things, and you want to be consistent and honor the commitment you've made to the day thing, right? Whether you're a teacher or a salesperson, but at the same time, you also have this responsibility. You have business partners that you have to report back to, and so you, at the same time, you still need somewhere to go and talk about that kind of stuff. And that's probably where we've landed. Just like, yeah, man, here's my headache this week. What do you got?
There's a guy who came on a while ago, Jeremy Carlson, and he mentioned how the importance of male friends is because sometimes whenever you talk to your wife, you feel yourself burdening yourself like onto your wife. And you're like, you shouldn't have to talk to me about this. I should have more friends.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think that's a common thing where you're like, I don't want you to think that the fact that I don't mention this, I don't want you to think that I'm not worried about it or stressed about it all the time. Mm-hmm. I just know that I don't want to compound that or put that on you because you have a lot going on, like with home, with your own job, or with the kids. And the fact that I don't bring this up, please know it's not the fact that I don't take that trivially. I just dump that on my own guy friends.
Yep. Yes. I would love for you to walk through this with me, but I feel like you're walking with a lot of stuff right now.
Right. Yeah. And it's just not the right time.
Yep.
Or I want to have a couple more, I want to come with more answers instead of just posing problems. And I'm going to tease those out by talking with my friends. And hopefully I'll talk to those people that actually give me some really good advice as well.
I don't know about the podcast. It's kind of interesting because I talk about this with my wife, and I know Chris talks about it with his wife, but it's kind of funny. And I think maybe the pandemic only I accentuated it maybe, but it's like there's this adult thing. I'm like on the line millennial Gen Xer, right? And so, but I watch my father grow up like visibly with not many friends, and he still doesn't. I mentioned he's an engineer, and for whatever that is, I'm sure he had his spaces to quote unquote vent. But I listen to a lot of people our age go, I think everybody's, I won't use the term lonely necessarily. It's like, man, I wish I had more friends. Like we don't have the community structure necessarily. And I think that's a gap. And one of the things kind of as both entrepreneur and business person and dad, you're like, man, I realized I probably was not good at finding spaces to just, vent that or vet it in a way that you were like, man, this is what I'm dealing with, right? And it feels like we have this, at least for me, and I don't know if this is true for you, but it's like, especially I'm this high functioning guy, and people on the outside, they're like, you run Boston twice, and you own a business, you're a successful sales guy, and other accolades, and that's not me giving it's like, it's almost this reverse pressure, and then you're like, where do I find a guy that I can talk about all this craziness with? Because it's like you're still trying to be a good dad, you're still trying to be a good husband. Sales, I always joke, is like 33% feeling like you're a king, 33% waiting on him to fire you, and 34% substance abuse. Yeah. And so, being able to go, dude, I'm like sucking in my day job while the business, or vice versa, and finding a male counterpart or even a group of people that you can kind of feel real with was something that if you asked me 10 years ago when I was starting to have kids, I wasn't aware of it or enough aware to go, you know what, I need someone that I can complain about my wife. Not that she's having to play, but you're like, or complain about my business and just have it be like guy talk, right? Yeah. And it's not
no judgment.
Yeah. I think it's the exercise of finding someone that you can hang out with and be compatible has been, I think he would say the same thing. It's been really important that I have Chris, which is bizarre. This turn into like bro fest, right? But
it's all good.
But I mean, yeah. So for listeners, I think one of the things, like, I watched my dad, and I had this like idea that if you didn't totally sacrifice, you just got to go coach the baseball team. You can't just watch the baseball game or whatever. Like that was probably some built up figure in my life. And I kind of look back at that now, and my dad's even talked about it. You're like, man, I probably should have found a space to be able to just feel like I could share and do stuff. And it was kind of an unmet thing for him. And so I hope our generation, quote unquote, that I'm in my mid 40s, right? I hope we do it a little bit better. At the same time, like what I wasn't good at 35 that I don't realize, you got to be intentional with it, right? You have to go, I've got to find dudes and da-da-da. And it doesn't mean I don't have to go be a good husband or be a good dad, but I'm better at those things when I go do this other stuff, right? Whatever other personal stuff you got.
I think as you start to get more accolades, or if you are more successful, it's easy. You still want to be viewed as human. Because if everyone just walks to me and is like, man, you're really good at your job, you're like, yeah, not every day though. And then whenever you say that, they're like, oh, you're so humble. I'm like, no, I'm actually just trying to be honest. I'm not actually doing false humility here. Today I was bad at my job. Can I talk to anyone about this?
That's right.
So it's this weird double-edged sort of like, I'm more successful. Who do you talk to about that you still have insecurities? I don't know. And when I talk to you about it, doesn't take me seriously.
Yep.
Yep. Especially when you have so many things going on too. You're like, hey, are you succeeding at everything or just being mediocre at it all? Yeah. And some days you have the conversation as we start, the check-in. It's like, hey, how you doing? It's like, I feel like I'm doing bad at every role that I'm playing right now. Yep. And it really hits home when, it's like, okay, I wasn't the best husband or partner yesterday because I wasn't just in tune with what was going on. I wasn't present the way I needed to be. I definitely wasn't the best father, and like checking those boxes where I feel like I should be. And now I'm not, because I'm stressed about these other things at work. So now I just feel like you're failing at all things, right?
Yep. And the thing that I even, again, people come and go, give me advice or blah, blah, blah. I have younger people ask me that. And in fact, I was having this conversation like 2 days ago for someone who works for me. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Yep. I'll be totally anecdotal. Like my son wanted to go to the Greenway this afternoon. And I was like, no, man, I have to go do this podcast about parenting. And you're like, it is the dichotomy of like trying to do lots of things and do them well, and even doing that for your kids, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time going, there are sacrifices in other things. And love for a 12-year-old boy is spelled Time.
Yep.
And at the same time, I at least with him, I have conversations about like, hey, I don't want you to ever think like I would do anything for you. I'll sacrifice anything, burn the house down, or then make sure you're saved, right? Like I would you over the house every time. And at the same time, without sounding like Leave It to Beaver, you got to go, I want you to see this demonstration of hard work and trying to be the best you, and knowing that sometimes that means I'm sacrificing other things. But you always have to temper that with, but at the same time, sometimes I got to say no to stuff. And it just matters that I'm throwing the football or the baseball in the backyard. Yeah. And it's funny, though, because you have people that you meet in life that they're like, I'm always jealous of people. Chris is actually really good at this. Like, he has this family time thing on Sunday morning. Like, I'm terrible at that because I want to do woodworking, or that's when I do this other wood thing, right? And it's the selfish kidder time, and he's out doing family stuff. But then Chris has the same thing. You just don't see it in the same way, right? He would probably nod. So it is, again, one of those things you just have to realize, like, you've got to capture the time when you can, while you can. At the same time, you always try to go back as a father and as a spouse and go, hey, I want you to see me do these things, and it's fun. I love them. And I also want you to see what's possible, right? And that's what I always tell my son. I'm like, it's not just about doing whatever you want to do. I want you to see ways that you can craft like a path for yourself. And your kids are very different from you. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. I was like, my son is like, he always is tripping somewhere between, like, he's going to be a professional skateboarder, like skater, inline guy, and an artist or something. And the girls thinking, no girl ever thought I was cute ever. And, like, girls are swooning over this kid right now. It's hilarious. I go, use it to your advantage. But again, you're just trying to teach him, like, hey, I want you to see hard work, and I want you to see that I love you. And you just try to foster the growth after that. I don't know. But I think the failure of it's not a failure of comparison. The trap of comparison against, like, other dads or other people that are doing things. I realized my dad, like, chose, for example, to just spend a lot of time with his kids and not really take care of himself, right? Yeah. And so it was something that I watched both my parents be unhealthy, have all kinds of health issues. And you go, man, it's cool that I feel like I'm modeling a healthy, heck, I own a gym, right? You own a gym brand, and you take my kids there. And so you're modeling this healthy lifestyle and importance of taking care of yourself, which is something I never had. That's not to fault my parents. It's just to say you realize that gap, and then you're trying to do something else. And I realized you're always going to have these things that you're not good at as a dad, and then you're always going to have these things that you do. And it's really the meld of you. I had to learn to just tell my kids, I'm like, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at scheduling the baseball throwing time. So I realized I told you we might do this. I'm going to do this podcast, and da-da-da. That was a long-winded way to go. You got to figure out, you got to cover your gaps where you have to, and play to your strengths. And where you really hope you can land is that you're teaching your kids something valuable, and the things you're not good. You've got friends and spouses and other people in your life that'll call you on your bull crap to go, dude, you probably need to spend some time with your son instead of whatever. So somebody else talk, right?
I think analyzing your parents is fascinating, because I think your parents normally just did whatever the opposite of their parents did. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if your grandparents weren't physically around for your parents very much. Yep. So your dad assumed, how do I show love to my son? Well, my dad was never able to do this. This is how I felt whenever that happened. So now I'm not going to let my son feel that way. Yeah. So it's funny that, like, no matter what you do to try to improve upon what was done to you, there's still gaps no matter what you do. Yeah. I feel like whenever you become a parent, you just you either be a lot more forgiving and offer a lot more grace, or you're a really cynical, bitter person. And those are, like, the two options.
It is. It's interesting that I think with my parents, and I like you talk with like dads, and you're like, I probably had to get to middle-aged with what I'll call middle-aged kids at like 10, 12, where I suddenly realized my parents didn't have it figured out at all, nor do I, right? And everybody's going, you didn't know crap about me. I don't know crap about my kids. And when you had, I don't know when that occurred, but it was like this epiphanal moment where my kids realize it now, sort of. It's almost a joke, right? But then you realize when they're 40, they're going to realize, I really didn't know what was going on, right?
You were really just throwing it against the wall.
We're just making it up as we go.
Faking it.
And so when with my kids, I just started telling them that. I'm like, you know, man, I'm figuring this out a day at a time. We'll get there. And let's talk about it, right?
Yeah. On the outside, you're cool as a cucumber. On the inside, you're like, just keep it together, man. Just keep it together.
You would only hope that you're cool on the outside, right?
Yeah, right.
We kind of call it like the duck on the top of water, right? Just smooth, legs underneath are just flapping so hard because you're going upstream. But it is so funny when you think about, you start to analyze like certain situations you just don't talk about with your spouse as well until you're in it, and you're just reacting based off of how you knew instinctively how you were treated and raised, and then that creates a lot of interesting conversations with your spouse. You're like, oh, we've never talked about this. Okay, let's talk about it now. Why would we do this? And I think there are certain things, you talk with anybody, you're like, well, I was raised this way. I didn't like it. I'm never going to do it. And then everything that you feel like you're okay with, you just don't really even think about. It's like, oh, yeah, I think I'm okay with that. I'll just act this way. So I'm either going to do 180 degrees different, or I'm just going to act just instinctively how I was raised until you have those conversations. And those are some of the most interesting.
Yeah. Whenever we got married, our like premarital counseling was like, all right, you both need to write out your family trees and say what the relationship was of all of them. So like in my family, almost every wife went back to college after like having kids or after getting married, like went back to grad school and like was very focused and everything. On my wife's side of the family, all of them were stay-at-home moms. So whenever we got married, my wife was like, so do you care if I'm like career focused and I have a career? I'm like, yeah, I assumed like once we settled in, you'd be like, you would know you could do all of this. And she's like, oh, I assumed you'd want me to like stay home and have kids. And I'm like, oh, but do you want that? Because like I'm used to seeing females rise up and be like, I'm going to get more educated. I'm going to like help our family out in this way. And I was like, oh, until we had the discussion in premarital counseling, I didn't realize what my normal was and what your normal was and how those can be disconnected in certain ways.
Yeah.
I'm suddenly having conversations because I have a preteen, he's 12, and a 14-year-old. I realized I'd never heard my parents talk about money. There was always plenty of it, hilarious. And all of a sudden, like I'm having this conversation with my wife. This has been recent, right? Where like I've utterly and completely failed, like teaching my children about budgets and management. And frankly, it's because I didn't. It took me a really long time to figure it out. I'm terrible at it, and you have to put backstops against it. Just wasn't something I ever worried about, right? Probably why I have 2 jobs. Go. And like you work way too much. You pay for your rock and roll lifestyle, kiddo.
There you go.
But I suddenly realized I never, you got to talk with your kids about this stuff. But you're totally right. You're like, you have all these assumptions. My wife grew up watching her parents like fight about where they were going to go on vacation. I have to tell these funny stories. Like her dad would let them have 1 push-up a summer, like push-up, like the orange creamsicle thing that you get.
What?
Because, per summer, he would only let them go to the ice cream truck once a summer. This is a true story. Chris is looking at me, like, next to me. Because he was going to be damned if he was going to, like, pay. He could get a box of them for $2. Oh, my gosh. And so, but I mean, and they were both public school teachers in the 70s and very frugal. My dad, again, I mean, he was an engineer and we weren't extravagant in lifestyle, but it was like,
you got push pops.
if you're an 8-year-old and you want a push pop from the ice cream truck, go for it, son, And so, but it was this really weird thing where we totally had, again, to your point, like you didn't talk about it. You make all these assumptions about what I think and how you're going to treat it, Ms. Spouse, and how, you're going to treat it, Mr. Husband. And you're like, man, in the middle of that, there was this giant gap where I'd never really talked with my kids about, here's how we're going to do. So it's stuff like that you realize as a parent, you're this messed up product of your background, and you almost play to the other side of the coin. And also, so is your spouse. And if you don't talk about those things, like all of a sudden, that is Sunday afternoon fight, like drama in your marriage or in anything else, when you're like, we never really talked about how we were going to talk to the kids about X, right?
Yeah.
So
hopefully you have good friends, though, who whenever you say out to them, like, oh, we got in a fight about this, you're like, oh, yeah, that was your normal. It's not your wife's normal.
That's
it's actually
right.
a very simple solution. You guys haven't discussed what your normal is.
It's just ever. Yeah,
Well,
So
that's
you
totally.
didn't
usually
know
how
it
it
was
goes.
normal until it appeared.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. It's like, yeah, so, or one of us is talking, just kind of like getting things off our chest. The other one's pretty quiet, and we're like, yeah, so we're kind of fighting about this now. It's like, oh, okay, you wanna talk about it? You wanna air it out? I'm not going to give you any advice, but you just want to air it out. I'll just air it out. I'll just talk. Let me give you a backstory. This is how it started.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so that's what's been helpful. Not talking about it to actually get advice. You just sometimes you just have to air it out and you just talk about it of that nature.
I believe most of the time, whenever you say the problem out loud, then you see what the solution is. You just hadn't taken the time to say it out loud yet.
Yeah, I think so many times we know, or like, I may be in the wrong here. I just need to vent the frustration.
I just need some weird form of validation that I was a little bit right, though.
Yeah,
and
right.
then I'll admit that I was wrong about everything.
I wanted to
else.
hear myself actually say what I said earlier to realize I was wrong.
I wasn't being a jerk.
or right, but then you know.
Yeah,
sometimes-
what's the classic saying that it's not always worth it to be right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's so
man.
like you can prove it. I feel like that's what you learn through many years of marriage, right? At the beginning, you're like, no, I'm going to stake the flag in the ground because I know I'm right. I'm going to do whatever it takes to prove this.
Yeah.
And now, I'm about to celebrate 14 years of marriage.
Jeez.
Kidder.
23 later.
23 years of marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's a lot. Yeah. There's
Dude,
a lot of years here.
that just
and at
makes
this
it
point,
sound
we're like,
old.
you know what? It's not actually, you might as well pick that flag up and just kind of toss it because it may not be worth being right.
Yeah.
So.
Nobody really cares whether you're right.
it nobody
Actually.
really
At least on the other side of the game, right?
Nobody cares.
I can be right and I can be all alone. Which one do I want?
It's and your kids don't care whether you're. I mean, you give them 20 minutes of time to think about it, and your kids come back 4 days later spouting stuff that you said 5 years ago.
Yeah.
After you tell them, no, you can't do that, or no, you got to ask to do that, or whatever, and it's always kind of funny. You're like, the stuff you say really does get in there. They just might want to argue it in the moment. And again, life lessons. Like I had to realize I was spending a lot of my time just pushing up against a brick wall, right, with kids, and going, you know what, man, just give it to them and walk away. And sometimes you just draw the line as a parent, and other times it doesn't matter. Like grandparents, that's where they're geniuses, because you're like, they get to give them the ice cream or what do them do, and then I kick them. You're like, what a great boat to be in, because then you're like, right? But at the same time, I've started to realize, man, if I can get my kids dialed into the why of the thing, sometimes I can even give them the why and go, you probably don't need to do this. I'm going to let you do it anyway, but I want you to know ...
Yeah.
And that has, that was something that's worked for me maybe recently. I don't know. I'm sure there's some father of a 20-year-old out there like, don't do that, man. But,
Well, at some point, every kid's different, so that's why you have some uniqueness there too. Mm-hmm. But just going back to that I think this would be insightful just from all of us. If you think back about how you were raised, what principles do you feel like you're trying to hold on to as I'm going to do this because this was when I think back about some of my most fond memories or the biggest lessons that I learned. Like if you think about that, Justin, like where you were. What are some of the biggest lessons you feel like I'm going to do this because I think back and these are great moments with my mom or dad. I want to instill this in my kids.
Just being present.
In what way?
My dad was always there when he was there. So he was gone quite a bit from work and from the Navy, but the times that he was home, it seemed like he always did something with me, whether it was baseball, basketball, or anything that I like to do outside. He was there doing it with me.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then the backstory to that of one thing that I learned from my father that I don't want to do
Yes.
is also not being present in a way
Got it.
of the constantly being gone.
Was that
whether-
traveling, like traveling for
Yeah,
work?
or the Navy. So he was gone quite a bit,
Yes.
like China, Indonesia, Brazil. I mean, he went
Wow.
everywhere. But yeah, so there was like sometimes 6 months, sometimes like a year and a half. Like my part of my junior and my senior year, my dad was in Jacksonville, Florida, because he went down there for the Navy because the guy that he took his spot went over to Afghanistan and Iraq. So yeah, he lived in Jacksonville for a year and a half.
While you were still in northern Kentucky.
Yeah, and then when I went to college, he moved up to Columbus because that's where he got a job.
Yep.
He was still married to my mom, who was still living in Kentucky, but he did that. I mean, it was a great paying job, so he was like, I need to do this, especially if I'm going to help my son go to college and everything like
Had
that.
to pay for that expensive school you went to.
I guess so. Go UK. But no, so I mean, it was a positive and a negative of that.
So you guys have your parents. Everybody has their parents.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. You were getting ready to ask something.
I was about to shift that conversation, just that same question.
Oh yeah.
My parents. So I'm a stay-at-home parent. My parents both similar. Whenever they were there, mentally present, very focused, really good. But they both worked full time.
Yes.
And I'm the youngest of three. So like a physical availability until like both my siblings went off to college was kind of hit and miss because they were trying to manage working full time and having three kids. So like how I'm trying to not repeat that is by being a stay-at-home parent, that they always know someone's around and they don't have much time to like figure things out on their own. Cause like, me at home during the summer was me like playing video games for like 8 hours, unchecked. Like, and my parents being like, "Oh, what'd you do today?" I'm like, "I don't know." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool. I got to go like take care of 5 other things.
Yep.
So are you good?" "Yeah, I'm good." "Okay, cool. I'm going to do all these other things." So I hope I always remember that. So I remember to ask my kids like genuine questions. I think the follow-up question is always really important with people. So if I'm like, "Chris, how are you today?" And you're like, "Good." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I just need to keep asking you questions until you stop giving me your canned responses.
Yes.
So I don't know, little things like that.
Yeah, get away from the yes, no, open-ended questions.
Yep, which is also me assuming my kids will want to talk to me. So that's my assumption.
That is the assumption. At some point, I keep waiting for my Kidder can probably speak into this when the kids start cressing over into like teenage years, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I have to take full advantage of these little babies I have right now that just want to spend time and talk with me because eventually there's going to be a door slammed in my face. All I'm going to hear is, I think the words I don't like you, or I hate you. I'm like, oh, the knife stuck in your heart.
Chris has girls because
right.
If I ask I've got one of each, right? You ask my daughter, all of a sudden I'm like, I didn't know you were going to talk for 25 minutes about like what happened in third period today. Whereas it would have to be some bizarre form of water torture to get my son to say anything other than, "How was your day?" "Fine."
Good.
"What'd you do?" "Nothing."
Things.
Yep.
But I also know that's how I was whenever I was a kid.
Right?
So
I was going to say, when
it's not my parents' fault. I just looked at them and said,
No.
"I'm good," and they're like,
Like,
"All right, I'm going to trust you, man."
like I said,
The
for
look on your face tells me you're right.
That's fine. Yeah.
the time my dad had with me while he was being present, we never really even talked.
Yeah.
It was us just playing basketball or
Just
football
being
or
together.
Just
hanging
being
out.
together.
Yeah,
not
physically being
saying a
together.
daggone thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's I think that's the difference between boys and girls, right? He's like, okay, with a boy, I just remember spending a lot of time with my dad, either going fishing or playing basketball or there's throw and catch. And you're not talking a whole lot amongst that time. It's just really you're just physically present.
Being there.
And you're trying to create maybe the moment in there. But having sisters and watching that difference and being present with my girls right now, or just reminding myself I need to be more physically present in order to create opportunities for those kind of quality moments that come out.
That's the thing with at least my son is it's like you get fine, great, good until you're throwing the football.
Yeah.
And he really is like, what route are we running next? He's 12, right?
Well, it's funny how like Kidder and I always have a joke that we run and train together for long distance, long course, and it takes us roughly about probably about the first hour and a half to get through the normal chit chat conversation, until you get to the point where we call it the vulnerable time.
Yep.
That's when you start pressing into like, all right, let me talk about what's really going on. Or have I ever told you the story? That's when you know, okay, we're really pulling back a layer here.
Of course,
You
And so
transitioned. That's
it's the
right.
same thing with like, I feel like it's the same with kids because
It
you're
is.
like, okay, I've got to like be present with you to a certain degree where okay, we've gotten through the normal chit chat stuff, we've gotten through here and here and here, and now we're just creating this opportunity. Maybe we'll get this kind of deeper layer going on. But I'm very much more, I love having a schedule. And if I get schedule quality time, fantastic. Yeah. And that's always, I think that's a constant lesson for me to learn. It's like, I think quality time is going to be built out of quantity of time. And that's what I'm trying to lean into.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've learned that a little bit with this podcast that like around 45 minutes or an hour is whenever I feel like we hit a good groove. Because like it's not like you sit down and like, Chris, tell me about your relationship with your father.
I am ready to go so deep right now.
I want to tell you everything.
I mean, like we're pretty easy to talk to. I understand. But
Batting the hatches.
Yeah, Kidder, how do you feel about your mother today? You know, like,
I'm like,
What's the
man,
deepest lesson that you've learned?
Yeah, right.
let's talk about mortality now.
I think it's the same. It's the same thing. We always keep it. We go, yep. I've got the walls up.
Let me actually fill you out a little bit first, and then I'll peel back a little bit.
But that's so good. It's hilarious though because it's true. I had to throw the football for 30 minutes the other day.
Yeah.
And
my arm is killing me.
I was
Please,
dying.
let's get to this point.
This is actually an hilarious story. I had a business thing. Guy I work with is a big cigar guy, and I had some cigars. I don't smoke cigars like ever. It's like I have this. This is an anecdotal dad story. Like, why do I have a humidor and I never smoke? Right? It's not even a thing. But like I had the cigars in there. I got them out. I was driving him to school. Kid didn't say a thing. I had to throw the football for 30 minutes before and he knows we have cigars in the house, but he asked me about it. And we had this entire conversation about vaping and health and all this other stuff. Yeah. And I don't think he'd ever brought it up. And I had forgotten I had him in there. I took him inside and he asked me about it like 9 hours later after his school day. But it took us 30 minutes of hardcore route running in the backyard before he thought it. But it really is this thing. Like sometimes they just need the space, and they need to ease into it the way we need to ease into a run. And my daughter, in her own ways, is the same. It is different, right? So it's like, Anyway, it's funny though. I was talking about it because I really one of the things it was accidental for me, like the entire health thing.
Yeah.
But it was. I like to work out because I love doing I like to run. I know there are people that don't do that.
Yeah.
And I love climbing. Like I climb mountains and I like going to the climbing gym. But my dad quit exercising about the time he had kids. Like he was in a softball league. And I never saw him or my mom go. My mom started going to a gym, I think almost when she was 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I mean, not until then. And she was working out with a trainer and she's da-da-da. But I've watched them. My dad's been on like high blood pressure medication for decades, and I watch him. Frankly, I grew up in Ohio, right, the Midwest. And I'm like, it was meat and potatoes, and I've watched them really struggle with their health.
Yeah.
In ways that I'm like, nah, man, I just don't want that, and that's not even the reason I do it. Which is why I know that there are people that struggle, like they don't like going to the gym, and it. Admittedly, I'm the wrong guy because I am not that guy. I love going to the gym, and it's because I like the activity, not because I like it's this ought to in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that coincides with a very unhealthy, like family history of like heart disease and all these other things. I watched my aunt die from like heart failure, basically, right? At 62. I'm like that is too young to be having those sorts of things, but. From a father's standpoint, like it was like I never saw my dad do the physical activity.
Yeah.
And I'm like in a country in a world where like we're really unhealthy.
Yep.
I go, man, video games, which is awesome. You were sharing that story. And I'm like, it's good. I love playing video. My son loves COD, and I probably let him play games he shouldn't be playing yet. We kind of play them together, and I take that attitude. But I'm like, one of the things I'm really grateful that I kind of accidentally stumbled into was that I love exercise. And even like they go back and forth between, hey, I'll go climbing with Dad, and I absolutely cannot stand this, right?
Yeah.
But I also know it's in the back of their mind, and I've watched both of my kids kind of go, I don't want to be on the climbing team anymore. And then 7 months later, they're like, I don't want to go to climbing team, but I want to come climb with you, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just something that you do, because it does give you those opportunities for conversation and those kind of spontaneous moments of interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, man, I'm like, I tell my daughter especially, because she, as a teenage girl, sometimes wants to sit and mope. I don't know whether other teenage girls are like that. Mine is, right?
I'm like that.
And, okay, hey, fair enough, right? There's a little teenage girl in all of us, right?
It's the teenage girl
So
deep
Chris
inside me.
be warned. But I mean, like, you get her out going, and we again to this spontaneous moment. I was like, she was frankly being a brat for a 14-year-old the other day. And on a Saturday a couple weeks ago, and finally I was like, we're going to, let's go run, let's go to, I was giving her the freaking orchestra list of stuff she could do, and she didn't want any of it. She wanted to sit and eat cookies on the couch. And finally I was like, we're going to go take the dog for a walk.
Yeah.
And we started walking, we get like half a mile in, and all of a sudden, boom, she's this changed person. She's like talking about her week, and she's talking about her frustrations. And she needed that, and I kind of told her later, I was like, you were fighting me on this physical activity thing, and as soon as we got going, you were, like, you got the endorphins, and it flipped the switch for you. And she's like, you're right, Dad. Okay. I was like, I wasn't trying to be right. Thank you. But I was trying to get you to learn this thing of, like, you know, sometimes when you're unhealthy, you're doing stuff, and I watched my parents with like physical ailments and lots of stress, and especially in an area where we talk about like mental health and all these things. I'm like, guys, if you're struggling, and Chris is really good about this, because he when you're in a bad headspace, Chris is always like, am I rested? You could name this better. I'm stealing your thunder here, but it's always like, am I rested? Where's my emotional space? Where is my physical activity? And I think when you can start to impart that to your kids. But I always go, man, like you heard my story. I'm like, do as I do, not as I say, right?
Yeah.
Is really what your kids are going to see. And so, you know, maybe making them go out. Yeah, it's good. Sometimes don't force them, but other times, like them seeing you do it and the ritual of it has been really instrumental, I think, in shaping them, even in to this point in their adolescence. And you hope you give them something lifelong. Anyway. Yeah, that was Kidder's rant on physical activity.
Well, I feel like that's what I learned with when you just feel like you're in a kind of a funk. It's like, are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Have you been physically active? If you can say yes to all of those, then you're like, okay. But if something else is going on, make sure that the hierarchy of needs are kind of being taken care of.
And that doesn't mean they can't have let them have Wendy's. I don't know why I brought up Wendy's. Let them. I mean, people always like, do you? I'm like, you know,
are you sponsored by Wendy's?
Yeah. No. I wish I was sponsored by Wendy's. You were from your dad was in Columbus brand, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't mean you can't eat fast food. I listen to, I can't think of the guy, big wave surfer guy talk. You know, he's like, I eat pretty clean, but if I want a Big Mac, I'm going to eat a freaking Big Mac. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of subscribe to that, right? And that's what I try to teach my kids. I'm like, you know, it's like it's garbage in, garbage out. It's exercise in, exercise out. Like one day of anything doesn't hurt you, but like anything else, like go back to my cigar story, right? And it's like one cigar doesn't hurt you. Enjoy it, man. If you want to have a beer or two or whatever, you know what I mean? I think we kind of get into this, well, I can't do that, right? And maybe this is to your point, my parenting reaction. My parents are like, yes or no, right? Mm-hmm. And I go, man, what I'd really rather teach you is the capability to self-modulate.
Yes.
And that's, man, we don't spend, like, mental health is this thing, like, sometimes you need the break, and sometimes you need to get your ass off the couch and go get some exercise, even if you don't want to, because you know that's something, you know what I mean? And so I think if you can teach that level of self-awareness and also recognize I'm not going to be self-aware all the time, and sometimes I need somebody to kick my butt off the couch and help me out, right? Yep. Which is where you either need good parenting or good friends. And again, I think it's the part where if you can start to see that modeled, which is again goes back to all the dads out there. Find a dad friend and do the thing, because you're not going to have all the answers. And sometimes you are being a bad parent. You need another good dad who's a good dad. He's a good dad that day. Other days, Chris won't be the good dad. But sometimes he's like, sounds like you need to quit being so selfish and spend some time with your kids doing what they want to do. And you're like, yeah, okay.
It's so funny talking about, like, we started talking about food and how I feel like we would all probably have professed this, but how amazing are our wives with just being kind of like a natural parent. And I feel like I'm being re-educated now on how to talk to my girls about food, because I mean I love having 3 girls, but when we found out that we were pregnant with our third one, there may have been some expletives, like. So this is. I'm going to take a segue, and then I'm going to come back to this topic, because I want to talk. I mean, because being a physical therapist, being in healthcare, working with females, I love working with like high school females that are like trying to like not get chewed up and spit out by their sport, and that are kind of struggling with things, and helping them have like a good self-image, have good confidence, and then move to be like a good functional like adult as well. Because I feel like I've got self-interest in that, of learning how to do that well on the healthcare side, and then kind of instill that in my daughters. But when I want to take a quick segue here, but you think about like when you find out you're pregnant with your first child, right? And like how was that told to you as like the husband? Right, so I just remember, like, I want to know, because the story, I feel like having a third one, it totally evolves. Like my first one, I'll go first.
Yeah,
and then
I have such a good pregnancy story. It's
I'm going to
so
get everybody teed up with it. So,
I want to hear it. Yeah,
we decide like, okay, we're gonna have children, and we were very blessed, and not everybody is this way, but that we did not have any difficulty getting pregnant.
Yeah.
The first time, and I know that is such a blessing. So I want to recognize that.
I didn't mean to laugh, but it is sad and frustrating, because I recognize that as a stress for people. I have some friends going through it. It's real tough. Yeah. That was not Chris and I's struggle. Which continue with your story, because we're buddies.
We decided that we were going to get pregnant, and this was how this conversation went. Callie said, "Okay," we decided it was time. We were married like over 6 years. Then I said, "When do you want to have a baby?" She was like, "In the fall." I was like, okay, why? She was like, because she's in healthcare. She was like, well, I just don't want to have the certain things that kids deal with during the winter time, during December. And so I think early fall would be really good. I was like, okay, so what does that mean? So like, we need to try to get pregnant in February. Like we had backed it up. It's like, okay. At that time, I was training for a race. Everything was scheduled. So we got pregnant first attempt.
Gosh.
And I find out I went for a swim. I come home. My parents are supposed to be visiting us for their one annual trip to Nashville a year. I get one a year from my parents. That they were coming up that day. Callie comes out, rushes out. She says, I'm pregnant. And I'm walking up the stairs, and I'm like, that's fantastic. And then she busts out crying, and she runs away from me and back in the room. And I'm like, and I run it down. I was like, isn't this okay? This is what we were trying for. She's like, I know. I don't know why. I'm like, that's fine. And I was like, this is great. Mom and Dad are about to be here in like a couple hours. She's like, we can't tell anybody. It's like, wait a minute. My parents are about to hear. This is the most exciting thing that's happened. And we didn't say a word the whole weekend. And then the second time we got pregnant, we didn't have any difficulty there either. She woke me up. She got up earlier than I did to go to work. And she woke me up, and she like sweetly tells me to my face, hey, we're pregnant. I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. Great job. You almost feel like good job.
You did
good effort. You did
You got the pregnancy.
You did great. And then the third one, so the first one I got told in person during the daylight. Second one I got woken up and told. The third one was a complete accident, unplanned. I get called at work. So when you're at work and you get the phone call at 10 a.m. from your wife, you take that call.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, okay,
we good?
Yeah, exactly. Pick the phone. Hey, what's going on? I'm pregnant. You put the phone down, you laugh, pick it back up, and I said, of course you are. And I said, at that moment, I was like, well, it can't undo anything. So I was like, who's the father? And she's like, that's not funny. I was like, it's a little funny.
It's a little
funny.
It's a little funny.
Give me that. Because it was like the only time I'm ever going to be able to say that in the moment, who's the father? She's like, that's not funny. Because she wanted the third child. And I always said, that's totally fine. Please choose somebody who can give good genes, who can play alimony.
Yeah.
And, and I was like giving all these requirements. I was like, you can totally have a third kid. Here's my only requirement.
Let's vet them.
I'm not going to be the father of it. So that's why I asked, who's the father? And she's like, that's not funny. She's like, I'm freaking out. I was like, honey, at that point, I was like, okay, just comfort your wife. It's fine. It's totally okay. We're going to be okay. We're in a good place. We're good parents. And we're fine. This will work out, okay? It's okay. And you try to comfort. You're like, okay. You hang up the phone. And then I smashed the phone on the counter. I was like, it's like a lot of expletives. And it's like, I got to go to work. Yeah. So that's how, those were the 3 times I was told that we were having kids. Nice. And it was amazing. We loved it. And I was like, people kept asking, are you trying for the third? Were you trying for a boy? Yeah. That was the question, right? Were you trying for a boy? I was like, no, I have everything a girl wants at home. Why would I want to pay more money?
Yeah.
I have everything.
As a running partner, you can imagine we ran on a Tuesday. World was fine. And Wednesday morning, he shows up. Am I allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Yes,
because he's like, I'll tell you what happened over the fucking night. And I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be that kind of Wednesday run.
Yeah,
It's like, so what? You're like, one time.
Well, I think actually the way I told that story was that we were on a run, because I told this to a couple other guys I was running with. They were like, hey, so what's going on? And I wait till pretty far into the run, just like we get to the good stories further into this podcast. Mm-hmm. And you start waiting to this point, the turning point into the run, where my mind is still spinning the fact that I might have a third baby. And I was like, guys, I got somebody pregnant.
I don't know who.
I said that was a story I thought he was going to say, because I saw the same thing to Kidder.
I forgot about that.
And I said it to somebody else. Kidder, it's the classic line from everybody. It's like, is it your wife? Because they're basically trying to test the water a little bit. Like how
much of a confession?
Whoa, is this? Yeah. How deep? How deep of a conversation we're about to go into here? So let me just test the waters for a little bit. And I'm like, yes, it's my wife. Okay. So like, whew, okay. Well, we started that. It could have gone either way. So I got somebody pregnant. It was my wife. How were you told that you were going to be a father?
So I get home from work, and Haley's talking to me, but I get a phone call. I see her go into the bathroom and come back out, but I'm on the phone with one of my account managers telling me that his grandfather is dying. So I'm trying to console him. I'm walking around the house, and then I walk past our kitchen island, and I see the pregnancy thing.
The pregnancy test.
Man. Yeah,
and it's just lying there.
And Haley is sitting at the dining room table, just staring, grinning, and I'm like trying to console this guy because his grandfather is dying, and I'm like really excited.
Changed.
I'm like, man, this sucks really bad. I'm sorry.
Pumping with
sorry,
the other
but
hand.
I'm like, yes. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I knew that you probably wanted this to be some grand celebration, and
then reality happened.
Yeah, and then I'm talking on the phone about
the world is real, right?
Awesome. Oh, yep.
All right.
So that was mine. 2
things. One, after I tell this, I'm going to go pick up Josh from my friend and then come back with him because I don't want to interrupt the conversation. A friend is watching my kid, and they're like, oh, can you just make sure you get him by 4? And I'm like, it's 3:30. This isn't winding down for a while.
No.
Wind down.
We're rocking and rolling.
So I'll go pick him up and come back, and we'll see how that goes. So this is a very realistic podcast episode of being a parent.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So first pregnancy, my wife and I went to also same of like, oh, we should get pregnant. Oh my God, we are. Okay, got it. That was like the first or second attempt.
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
You're like, we're so blessed.
We're so blessed. Oh my God, we're done. We went to Cantina Laredo, which used to be like down in the Gulch.
Yeah.
And she told me before we went in to eat dinner, and I think my reaction was like, no shit.
For the second one?
For the first one.
For the first
one. And then like we didn't really eat dinner because we both were just like, oh, okay. All right.
This is happening.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then like we like shared a meal, had leftovers from the meal, got it back in the car, and both were like, no shit. All right.
So what you said was
So
really
that's
true.
because we, and then this, and then I, and then, oh, okay. All right. And then the second one, it was whenever I actually turned 30. So she had our oldest daughter come out like in a big sister shirt. And I was like, oh, yay. But we'd also been like, we were more intentional with that one. So we were tracking. So like in my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure she should be late by now or we're pregnant. So I had some heads up of it. And the third one was like, basically it was around Christmas time when we found out we were pregnant with Josh, our third born. And I was like about to go to Whole Foods because it was during the pandemic. So as opposed to a Christmas party, they gave us all like gift cards to Whole Foods or something like that to go buy something at Whole Foods and eat it the night of her Zoom Christmas party. And I was like, I'm going to go to Whole Foods to pick up the stuff. And she's like, yeah, don't get any alcohol. And I was like, oh, why is that? She's like, because I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's how you
Well, I
found out
won't
for
get any
number two.
alcohol.
Great talk.
So yeah, the progression of like us both saying to me like, like, so like not stressed, but still like overrun by the moment that you can't even eat like 2 fajitas. To like, yeah, I'm going to go to the grocery store. Yeah, don't get any alcohol. I'm pregnant. All right, cool. Sounds good.
Cool.
So you believed her the very first time, or did you were like, are you joking
No,
right now?
because we communicate a lot. So like I was pretty in tune with her cycle and everything. So
Dang.
yeah.
To the pregnancy story. This is
Yes.
this is real quick and
Yes.
dirty, man. This is hilarious. So we had my wife did her doctoral work at the Ohio State University. See how I slipped that in there for you, Chris?
Pretentious.
Even though, yeah, pretentious. I know, right? It's only because it's in the charter. Hilarious. And so we had just moved back to Nashville. She had just gotten her doctorate. We're working. I have like a really good sales job at a recruiting company at the time. It just moved into this. So, and both of my children were accidents. Both of them were like one times. And again, I know that not everyone's like, it's hilarious. People are like, really? I'm like, really, dude, it's kind of stupid. So I have like out of town, like corporate guests are in town, like other people in engineering recruiting, which is what I had worked in at the time. Okay. This is a while back. And like, so I'm in with like 2 director level people in this I'm in somebody's Escalade or some gigantic SUV where we're all going to lunch. We are 45 feet out of the parking lot with like 6 people in the car. And she calls me and is like, it's like lunchtime. She's like, I need you to come home right now. I'm like, seriously, I'm in the car. She's like, you have to come home right now. I was like, guys, I don't know what's going on. And somebody goes, is she pregnant or something? I'm like, no, man. And then I'm like, no. And so I get home, and again, in good expletive podcast version, I get home. She's like, fuck. And I'm like, what? Is a dog dead? We don't even have a dog. But I'm like, what is going on? She's like, we are pregnant. What are we going to do? And I'm like,
we're going to have a baby.
We're in our mid-30s. We both have successful jobs. It's going to be fine. We'll tell your parents in a couple months after we're sure everything's okay. She's like, it's really okay? I'm like, well, I can't undo anything now. And now I got to go back to work and explain with some lie why you called me home. And she's like, I'm sorry.
I thought you were dying.
I thought somebody
I have
had
to go tell
cancer.
everybody at work that we have a dog that died. I never knew you had a dog.
We didn't, and now it's gonna die.
And it's dead.
So that was the first one. Thing. And again, in every good second child story, it was kind of like I came home on a Monday night and popped some wine, and she's like, "Well, I can't drink because we're pregnant." And she was more angry about the wine than she was about the pregnancy. We were like, "Really?" I was like, just that one time, huh? I was like 6 weeks later. I'm like, that's a damn shame. And I'm like tipping the glass. So, but that one, it's funny. They're like, we're just total segue. So then it's interesting wives when you have them, because Chris and I have talked a lot about this. I'm curious. The time of year when you have your kids, like, seems to not just shape their, like, as in your children's, like demeanor and energy. I don't know if that's a little lot. I'll give my rationale for it.
Yeah.
But certainly my time with a pregnant wife was very different from having a child that was born in the spring versus one that was born in the fall. Specifically because I think my wife was just a really angry pregnant lady in the middle of summer.
Well, when it's hot in
Yeah.
the summer,
They
understandable.
hate their lives. That she
Yeah.
hated me at the time. I can't
Yeah.
believe you did this to me. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty much how it was for me as well.
yeah, and but it's hilarious because with Ben, my son, because she was in academia, she actually had all of that spring off, and then all of summer off. And so for her, it was like a sabbatical, and it was really okay. She had him.
And when he was born?
He was born in March 11th. And so the third trimester was all in the winter when it's nice and cold and they're burning up.
Yeah.
And then she had him, you basically have him in spring, and she had spring and summer to be all happy and stay home with her kid. And then by the time she was kind of over it, and my wife is just like that, like she really is a person that needs work and needs to do that. And again, men and women are different, but I mean, my wife is someone that needs to work, and when she doesn't, I'm kind of like, we need to get you back in school. You're kind of becoming annoying. She was ready to go back to work, and it was time, right? And always wanted to work with kids, which was always cool. And we've been lucky to navigate it. We've got like in-laws that are close, and so I had a grandma that embraced it. Yeah, and again, everybody's different. I'm like my mother-in-law really wanted to be like grandma, right?
Yeah.
To where she retired a little bit early so she could get down here. And that's been really good. Mostly it's been helpful to me. It's been really good for my wife because she didn't feel the pressure. Because I do think it in our marriage, I would and do feel the pressure differently from her in terms of the responsibility of like who picks the kids up and all this. It's not that I'm not unwilling to do it. It's just like she kind of gets real nervous about it, and I'm just like, I'll get there and get them, and it's not this big a deal. So she's nervous a half hour before she has to pick them up, and I'm nervous like 5 minutes after I should have picked them up. So, but yeah, but that's worked. But she's definitely someone that if she goes, like she even teaches in the summer. If she doesn't teach in the summer, she's
Goes
really
crazy.
annoying. Yeah. And it's actually compounded now that the kids like are,
Getting
a lot
older.
more interactive. Yeah,
Yeah.
because now they kind of drive us both crazy. Because I can work from home, and a lot of times in the summer I go into the office. I'm like, y'all are a bit much. So
Yeah, I mean, you've got
So
to
that's
have
great.
that headspace, that margin or away time,
mm-hmm.
especially during work. For me at least, I would never be able to get anything done.
yeah,
And Devin is back with Joshua.
Devin is back with Joshua.
So his kids and I think his wife are all in
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Visiting sister-in-law.
So you're
So-
single parenting with just one kid.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. Hello.
And
Good to
yeah,
see
and
you, Joshua.
after this week, they're heading to Denver, right?
Yeah, to Denver.
Denver
Yeah.
for a
For
full
the
month.
family vacay.
Yep, pretty much. My wife can work remotely from anywhere, and
Nice.
I have a lot of family, or like 3 aunts live out in Denver,
Oh.
and we've always loved it out there. So we're like, hey, we can actually just go live out here for a month.
Is
during
what
the
you're
summer.
planning on doing that for the month?
Yeah, for the whole month. Because if you
Isn't
like,
that pretty cool?
if you
Yeah,
look at, like,
it sounds cool.
Yeah.
If you
it
look
sounds
at like
cool.
Airbnb costs, like whenever you do it for like 2 weeks, tied on like an extra 2 weeks, it's almost like the same price. So it was like, cool, we might as well just go for the whole time.
Just do it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Last summer, whenever I was home with all 3 kids, like the first month, everything was good. Like they liked whatever I had planned for them. The second month, it seemed like every time, like, hey, we're going to the zoo today. They'd be like, ugh. And I'd be like, let me say this again. We're going to the zoo today. So hopefully helps out with some of the natural boredom of kids at home during the summer. So
Well, it is Colorado, so
yeah,
that should be.
yeah.
It
should be
sounds
pretty sweet.
awesome.
We're gonna drive out there, so we're gonna split up into like 2 days. Stay in Kansas City for a night. My wife went to Kansas for grad school, so I still have some friends out in the KC area that we'll hit up.
I did the family vacation drive thing going through Kansas City to Colorado for like family ski trip.
Oh yeah,
And you are either I fell into the latter category. You were either super crazy or you're kind of like, I'm just gonna be Clark Griswold on this.
yeah.
We did that 2 years ago, like right before Christmas. And I mean that's from Nashville out to Denver, and we went farther, like over into the Front Range to ski, right? So it's
Yeah.
like 22
20.
hours in the
Yep.
car. Is that what it is? Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
And
I guess 9 to 10 to get to Kansas City, and
Yeah.
then another 9 to 10 from Kansas City to Denver.
That's
You're
right.
driving.
And you're doing that with 3 kids,
With 3
right?
kids. Yeah.
Hats off to you, my friend.
Wow.
Well, I mean, we don't know if we survive yet.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me my accolades.
We wondered. It really felt a little bit like, a Cortez or Christopher Columbus. Like, we're just gonna burn
gonna
the bridges and see what happens. And so we took a 10 and a 12-year-old on like a ski vacation.
Go to
like,
Wally World.
Yeah, we went to Wally World, and but yeah, it worked swimmingly, right? And we we got to Kansas City. It's the one, I'm not a planner. I'm a spontaneous person. And we talk Myers-Briggs and Enneagrams in the next
one's
podcast.
figured that out.
Are you a
Yeah,
seven?
right. I am a 7.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
he's
On
a
the
3.
Enneagram?
Nailed it.
Four.
Yeah,
Sad person.
4.
Ah,
Do you know, Joe?
Yeah,
it's sad and he leans into it.
You're a 4? Yeah.
I think. You think I'm 3?
Oh no.
Oh,
I mean, if you're a 4,
I
you have
thought
a
it-
very strong 3 wing.
yeah. I think I was a 4 or 3.
Okay. But
Interesting.
Let's discuss childhood wounds. But back to your
Yeah.
story.
yeah, no.
Let's see where
keep it moving, keep it fun.
let's talk about the shadow.
I actually planned this thing out. We got to Kansas City. We stayed like right downtown in the meatpacking district,
Yeah.
and the kids thought it was awesome because we stayed in the side. Again, they were 10 and 12 at the time. So it
Yeah.
was and we had ordered them a pizza before we got there. We get up there, we throw the bags into the room, park the car. I took my wife to a jazz club steakhouse, so it checked. She's way into music and likes to dance, and I'm into steak and wine. Not that she isn't, but I mean, we checked all the boxes, left the kids, and we were done being in the car after 12 hours. So it was like the perfect. I'm not telling anyone to do that, but it worked for us. And
Hey.
and so it was like, and then, you drive the rest of the way. Then you have the house and the hot tub or the Airbnb or whatever. We were in an Airbnb. And skied, and it really worked out coming back because then they're tired from the ski trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, 3, I don't know, but I tell people brave the waters because that's kind of fun. We have all kinds of funny memories to it.
Yeah,
I highly recommend.
I bet you create a lot of memories and cool experiences.
Like
even
just crazy stuff, like stuff you don't even know, and
Yeah.
then somebody plays the song again, and you're like, oh yeah, remember that weird
Yeah.
lady in the restaurant? You don't get that unless you go on a 24-hour road trip. And again, it's cool. You talk to people, they're like, we do that 3 times a year. I'm like, yay, you. I wish I did.
One singer-songwriter I listened to once said he did that as a kid, and he just referred to it as the Summer of Graceland by Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Because that was the one tape that was stuck in the tape deck for the entire time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I also envisioned that exact moment of you're sitting there like, boy in a bubble, here we go, round
Yep,
5.
that's
All
what
right,
it is.
Here we go. So what's
That's
up? What were you guys
fantastic.
doing for the last like 20 minutes? Just
Yeah, right.
Kidder.
really and truly, yeah. Just talking about his pregnancy experience.
Now we're back here.
Now we're
we just
back.
went off onto
Here we
another
find
tangent.
ourselves
Here we are.
in the middle of the vacation
Oh,
conversation.
we started
right?
going down
Oh, yes,
Enneagram. We started going
vacation.
down Enneagram numbers.
Yeah.
Which we could. Yeah.
That could be a whole nother podcast for like 3 hours straight.
It could
I don't think they've made an Enneagram podcast yet.
Yeah.
be in Nashville specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nashville specifically.
I mean, some
right
type
down
of
the street.
typology about that, I guess, might
Something.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that was so big. What was it? 3 years ago?
Yeah, like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
It was. I
It
think
just
it hit
boomed.
right before COVID.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it being around for so long, but then just being being resurfaced,
Mhm.
right, and getting a lot of pop culture interest in that.
Yeah.
And I think we're still seeing quite a bit of interest in it still right now, but maybe not just a buzzword right now.
Yeah. It's kind of died down just a little bit, but yeah, I just remember it booming and being like, "Oh, okay, cool."
I still think the Enneagram, what it really should be, it's not an identity test. It's a way to acknowledge in which ways you're being really obnoxious to everyone around you. That's mostly what it is.
How do you start that conversation? Yeah. It was funny. Yeah. Like, how do you actually start the conversation there?
So you're a 3. So that means that you want to be the most successful person in every room that you walk into. Yeah. Do you think that's kind of annoying sometimes? I do.
Not at all. Yeah, exactly. Coming from the
To him,
4.
no.
Yeah,
The
I want to
4.
be special and unique in every
That's
room I walk
right.
into. Don't you think that's a little obnoxious? It is a little obnoxious.
Like, I don't want to adhere to anything.
Exactly. Well, is there a structure? Because I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
That's exactly right. You're like, tell me your favorite this. Oh, I don't have any
Well, I mean,
favorites.
like,
I don't have any
favorites are like a
favorites.
concept,
Right.
so, like-
Oh. Depending upon the day, is it raining or is the sun
Well,
shining?
it depends. Like, did you listen to the band before me? Because then I can't agree to it.
Right. That's
This isn't
classic.
These are really good.
This is real.
No,
entertainment.
it's real
Classic
stuff.
four. Real.
No, it's really good.
But the
Classic
Enneagram
four.
made me realize in what ways I'm being obnoxious. So if someone's like, have you listened to this band? I shouldn't be like, no. I should be like, yeah, tell me why you like them and I should listen to them. A younger version of myself was like, no, I'm not going to listen to that because you suggested it.
That's exactly
wanna be
right. If I didn't
different.
discover it.
Exactly.
This want to be different.
The fact that you talked about it being so popular, Justin, and that you're still trying to figure out what you self-identify with.
If you get into childhood wounds, that's normally where your number comes from.
I figured this is what on hour 3 of this podcast. That's where it kind of starts going to.
Is to my enneagram. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm a person that fluctuates.
That
But
means you haven't done the research.
No, I know that you're supposed to be like either a 4 with a wing or whatever number with a wing, but I don't know. I just feel like
But based off the way this dialogue is going right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then tell me, enlighten me.
No, that's rule number 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here's not to tell me.
Here's what I think Enneagram works
Oh,
best
that's
at.
right. You're not supposed to tell them.
Is that whenever you walk into a room, what validation are you looking for in that room is usually, or how do you find validation in it, is normally how you can figure out what your number is. Like, that's how I think it, like, rings the most true. So, like, I walk into a room, if I don't feel unique, I usually am like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose in here? Until I find out what that is.
I walk into a room and I'm like, who should I be talking to? Who are the players in this room? Kind of get a feel for the room. Kidder kicks the door open.
I kick the
See,
door
that's the
open,
thing, though.
and if it's a room where I can't immediately escape my pain, I'm like, I'm
Exactly.
the freaking heck out of
But
here.
that's also crucial for
But-
7 is
Let's
that
rally.
you're avoiding pain at all times.
At all times.
Because, like, you had something happen in your childhood. We're like, oh, this really hurts. I'm never experiencing this again.
Ever, man. Running from
so you
every
never sit
version.
still.
Never.
You guys say there is no like fluidity in that,
Well, I mean, there's some. I'm just
But-
being crappy to you.
but
That's the 4 coming out in him.
Exactly.
but for me it is because I mean there were times where I would be that 7 and kick in that door, and then there would be times where I wanted to be that top dog. I don't know. For me, it always seems like
We're about to turn this podcast into self-discovery for,
Yeah.
For Justin.
for Justin.
So,
We can
okay,
start. We
let's
can probably
create
start
another-
asking some questions here.
Yeah.
And start going down.
So, what
this
do
route.
you think I am? I know that's a question that you're not supposed to
That's
ask,
rule number 1.
but
Well,
you seem
Your fellow colleague here could probably
Doubtful.
give us some insight into this.
Yeah.
Being the 4,
Yeah, as
they're
the most special person
insightful.
in the room.
He's the most unique person
as
in
the
the
most
room,
person in the room. And that's how you work to my ego.
and we actually value his opinion
Thank
the
you.
most.
That's the most
okay.
pretty person here.
So that's what a 3.
Okay.
That's what a 3 does. Is actually
Right.
figure
They
out
figure it
actually how to
out.
build everybody else up. Lean into that.
Okay.
That's a healthy 3.
help.
Healthy 3. I mean, really, I do usually refer back to childhood wounds. What's something that happened to you in your childhood in which you created a defense mechanism against it, and you still live through that defense mechanism as an adult?
Ooh, very abstract idea.
Yep. These aren't things you think about at night when
No.
your kids are asleep.
No. No.
As you
None
listen to
of
sad
that.
music, no one
Yeah,
else, that's just me. Just,
you want an
No,
answer?
I'm
from
joking.
me.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
sorry.
you guys are
Sorry.
looking at me. I'm like,
We waited long enough for an
shit.
answer.
that's the legitimate
This
thought
is-
process you go down, is that you think to yourself, whenever I was a kid, what was
Yeah.
something that hurt my ego? And then I created like a defense mechanism against it, and now I'm still using that defense mechanism, even though I'm a full realized adult. That is Josh begging for more
Again.
treats.
Yeah. And he's
It
like,
could
what,
be multiple things.
It can be, and that's okay.
what sad music am I listening to? I'm like, nobody's listening to sad music over
So-
here, pal. I'm like,
So
I'm
for me,
running away
I'm
from
not, I'm not a.
I love looking back at or thinking back to old movies, old songs and everything like that, and then correlating that with like a past memory. I can go down a deep rabbit hole on that, where I just go down to movies
Like reflection.
and reflect on them. Yeah, I mean that's
Which is a normal 4 characteristic.
Yeah,
of
that's why
being
I'm
stuck in
saying-
nostalgia.
that's why I think I'm a 4.
But if you're a 4, you believe that something is inherently broken inside of you. Do you feel like there's something inherently broken inside of you? And that through being unique, that you are then made whole or bring value
Yeah.
to a room?
Yeah, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's also an abstract thing. Like, it's like just that some part of you, your natural like bend, is like, oh, I'm probably broken.
Yeah,
So if that's how you feel, then you have some very 4 characteristics.
yeah. Alanis Morissette is my my spirit animal.
No.
You're an angry woman going through a
Yeah.
divorce in the 90s.
Seriously. It's a little too ironic.
Angry.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Don't you think?
Oh, we went there. Dad jokes.
Yeah.
Dad jokes.
We did well. All right.
Well,
There are a lot of dads that don't have the dad experience that at least Chris and I, and again, you guys said your parents are here. Like I
Yeah.
look back and I like giggle. Everybody has some kind of dysfunction with your parents. And if you don't, maybe you're too perfect to investigate that. We would talk enneagram another time, right? But like I look back at my parental relationship, and again, I kind of said, I recognize they're people, and the older I get, the more you figure out they're just people, and they were making it up as they went, the same as we all are. But at the same time, I have a healthy relationship, and my dad and I bond through sports, but I call him once or twice a week, and we talk. Bizarrely, I call my mom a little less because she doesn't want to talk, football or the NHL as much. But I mean, I call them and we talk, right? And it's interesting that I know that has shaped how I parent.
Yeah.
And so, one of the interesting things as you talk with other dads and other parents is it's always helpful. Like, you just never know where someone came from right before they spoke to you, right? And so I think that so applies to parenting that it's interesting, like, when you view that through the lens of how I react to both my kids and to my parents, you're like, yeah, but I look at my childhood a certain way, and I look at the way I parent a certain way because of that. But that's not everyone's story.
Yeah.
And so I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you guys do this to go down the road of exploring, not everybody's got the same story.
Yep.
But again, I kind of made the reference. I'm like, Chris and I have this funny trap of like, and we kind of laugh about it. It's a problem. Like, I'm so busy and I do all this stuff, and that's actually a gap, right? Because I wish I would create more time. I almost had a fight about it today, right, with my spouse. And you go, okay, well, that's the lens I look through. And I think what's helpful is you look at other people's stories and you hear the lens that they're looking through, and you realize here's where I can grow from that interaction, and here's what I can learn from that, and maybe here's where I can add insight to their, same as, and talking enneagrams or talking anything else, right? But I think the cool thing is when you talk about it, what you realize is most people are dealing with the same problems. They're just dealing with them through a different lens, and so it's cool to hear different perspectives.
But pretty cool to just acknowledge or focus on that. Part of the reason to have a podcast like this is, or why I'm here, I went and picked up my kid and came back, is because knowing what other people are going through makes you more empathetic.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's better when they're empathetic.
Yeah, totally.
So, like, thank you for coming in today to talk about your story and just, like, talk and hang out for a bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's a value.
Well, yeah.
I came back here with my kid to be like, no, I'm talking to other dads. I want to know what other people's experiences is like, because if I'm just stuck navel gazing at all times, I don't learn anything else.
Yeah.
And then I'm not as loving as I want to be. And as a father, I should always be looking for more opportunities to show love and understanding and kindness.
Yeah, it's true. So
There have been a lot of people that have listened to our other guests that we've had on and been able to relate to those. Yeah, so that's something else that we really enjoy with this podcast, is being able to get that out there, of letting other dads know that they're not alone, and that there are other dads that are dealing with the exact same issues, highs or lows. So, yeah, it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Having people reach out to us and saying, hey, I want to tell my story.
Yeah.
So, I guess we should probably wrap up. What we end up doing, Josh is getting a little fussy.
Yep.
All right, Chris, I'll start with you first. Do you have any backup names for your three kids?
Backup names as in nicknames, or what they would have been called?
What they would have been called? Their second choice.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how, just like the pregnancy stories evolve, we had our name picked out for my oldest is Isla James. And we decided on Isla probably a couple months before we actually had her, but we went through multiple names. She was probably almost a Palmer. I feel like we were debating that. We wanted to name her Palmer, but Callie won out on that one, as she did on all three of our girls' names. And if she had been a boy, I think we would have named her James or Jameson after the Irish whiskey.
Thank you.
And but her dad is James, goes by Jim, and so we wanted to hold on to that. So now she's Isla James, and we thought we were being really unique with that. And then that's unfortunately, I'd say unfortunate in Nashville now. Isla was a very popular girl name when she was born.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that because Callie works in pediatrics, so she knew all names that she did not want to name babies' names because
Heard them so much.
That's a totally different topic. Elsie Joy is my middle. I think she was almost a Lucy, and I was trying to maybe one up the Palmer again, and then I got outvoted by not only Callie but also Isla. But that was a time where Elsa was really popular because of Frozen, and I think that's why Isla voted for Elsie. So then we already had Elsie. We just hadn't named her yet. We were in the hospital, and so we hadn't decided on a name until her second day that she was born. And then when we had our third, we were on day 2 before we were allowed to leave the hospital. But we named her Thea Louise, and we call her T. Sometimes we call her Sweet Tea, or I call her Mr. T, based off if she's really kind or very angry. And so it's funny how the nicknames you get there. But honestly, for Thea or for T, we kept working our way. We fought the most on names for her because we knew she was definitely the last. And Thea was on the list, but it was T, letter T. So we would go alphabetically and debate all the names. So we would just stop at M or P, and we would never get to the T's until finally we worked through all the entire list when it came down to Thea, and we were both decided oh yeah, she should totally be Thea because it means gift from God. And it's well, she definitely wasn't planned by us, so that's what she is. So.
Mine are actually fun. So, wife is a French professor.
As opposed
so
to mine.
You see
the jab? You see the jab?
No.
That's the 7.
So, oh gosh. So, my wife, it had to sound good in French, right? So, my daughter was almost Coco, which is the best soccer name. Coco Kidder scores the U.S. goal, right? So then, but it didn't sound, if you put Dr. Coco Kidder, it didn't sound official enough. So here's the thing. So then we were Felicity Coco Kidder. And if you have the initials FCK, you are toast for the rest of your life. Yeah. So she ended up being Bryn. So we really had to kick Coco to the side, which was a bummer because we really, even if her middle name had been Coco, I'm you are destined for soccer fame. And then to Chris's story, you can't, your relatives get upset when we went with a bunch of names with Ben. And we actually, so fun story, we didn't get to this. We didn't find out the gender for the second, and so, which wigs everyone out these days. So I didn't know I had a son until he came out with a penis.
Yeah.
And so it was really tough. We had some girl names. We were maybe even kicking around Bryn, Coco, all those things. And then we took those out and we were okay, we had some other girl names I don't even remember. But we ended up naming him Benjamin Michael. So he's after me, but blah, blah, blah. It was we had to, they made us give him a name before we left the hospital. So we got stuck, right? But the Coco, I still kind of regret the Coco. Would have been fun, man. I'm doggone. Anyway,
funny how you think of the name, this will be great for her being a child,
yeah,
high schooler. And then it kind of ends
and
unless she does professional sports.
That's right. Otherwise, your goal is to keep them out of trouble. I'll leave it there.
All right, next question. Who's your favorite TV dad? Kidder, you can go first. We can snake back.
Oh, man. We'll snake back.
I punted that one to him.
That was quick.
TV dad.
TV dad.
TV dad.
Favorite TV dad.
Television. It's short for television.
Yeah.
It could be a movie as well.
I don't remember
TV.
The funniest one is the dad from that 70s show. I don't even know
Red.
his name. Red, yes.
That is the funniest.
He's pretty good.
Favorite
Dumbass.
being, why is he your favorite? Because it's just hilarious.
Because every line that guy
show.
had in that show was awesome. So
I think he called his son a dumbass every single time.
Every single episode.
My favorite quote from his, whatever his son was named, he's well, son, it's Eric. You're 16 now, and it's time to learn about being a man. And the first thing about being a man is you're going to spend the rest of your life doing a bunch of crap you don't want to do.
Amen to that.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's the most. I think it's funny to think about that now because that show came out. I mean, I don't even know when that show came out,
Probably
but
the 90s.
weird.
It
We're
was
so
late
further
90s,
in life. But if I think about, if if I'm reverting back to the shows you grow up on, watching the dads, then I'm just thinking about, well, TV shows that I watched that I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually cool. I can relate to this person. Because the attitudes and the personalities of the dads on TV shows back in, like, the 80s are vastly different than they are now.
Yeah.
Which is just funny to think about. But, like, growing up, like, Boy Meets World, and that was like a TV one that I related to, a TV show. So thinking about, like, I guess Corey was the main dad there, but that was just like where you saw kids of different different families, different personalities, but the families just related to their children differently, and that was just like wholesome. And then I think about in the 90s with that 70s show, it's like, that's just hilarious. And that's probably what my dad really wanted to say
really
to me
what they wanted
every single day. And probably still does.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Least favorite kid show or movie? So one that just probably
Least favorite.
you have listened to a million times or heard or watched a million times. You're just like, God, I can't.
Yes. Least favorite show. That's probably evolved a lot for you, Kidder, because they're in a different stage right now. Least favorite show right now. I think I had to boycott the show Barbie.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like just a cartoon sitcom, because that was, you just watch your kids watch certain shows and they turn into like not the kids you want afterwards, or the certain messages that you start seeing like being thrown around. And right now the show, like on either it's on, I don't know if it's on Disney or Netflix or whatever streaming, but it is like we don't let them watch that right now.
Yeah.
Because it's just like we don't like the message they're sending,
Yeah.
or we don't like who you're turning into after you watch that. So no. My favorite show though is Bluey.
Yes.
And
Bluey.
that I will sit there and watch as many episodes
That
of Bluey
dad is
as they
amazing.
Exactly. So that's the difference between the Barbie. It's just like I'm just watching a teenage girl being like a bitch, and then watching a kid just being like, oh, that's not fun either. Yeah. And now I said, let's watch Bluey.
Yeah.
Because now the mom and dad are just very
And
involved.
dude, it has a great message. Every single one.
And they're Australian. So
They're
who doesn't like
Australian.
the
And they're
Australian
Australian.
accent?
Let's put another shrimp on the Barbie.
Good on you.
Now we're going to favorite
Good.
movies by us.
Yeah, yes.
Anything
So
sticking in your
I'm gonna answer. So my favorite was the Wonder Pets. My daughter watched that show like crazy. And everyone, if you're out there with kids of a certain age, put the Wonder Pets. They're nice to each other and it's happy. And the theme song's not annoying, which leads me to there's the French. It was Hey Tro Tro. I don't remember. It's like a weird looking animal pet. But he just whined the entire time, and because it was in French, again, you get back to my wife, and we realized my daughter's starting to whine more because she's watching this freaking show, and I hate the theme song. I'm done, man. The theme song, done.
Boycott
So
it.
yeah, we were like, we suddenly looked at each other like, no more Tro-Tro, done.
It's a weird moment. We've talked to other
It
dads
is.
about that, where like, your kid watches a show and suddenly they start kicking your dog, and they're like, "Why is
Yeah.
that?" Well, in that one episode, someone
In
kicked
that
a
one
dog and they laughed at it.
Like, no.
And you're like, "Cool, that one's banned forever." now."
Yep,
Yeah.
forever banned. Yep.
It just takes you that long to put it together. And
Yeah,
like,
It
Yeah.
does.
oh,
Correlation.
There it is.
Correlation.
There it
Cause and
is. Light
effect.
switch.
Got it.
All right.
It's me.
Yeah.
Does your kid have a toy that you actually like playing with them? Like whenever they're like, "Hey, let's go do this," you're like, "Yeah, I actually want to."
Besides the Xbox 360,
Besides-
that's actually mine because
Uh,
Assassin's Creed,
Why
the
do you
new
still
one's
have
coming
a
out.
360? Why haven't you gone next gen?
I lied. I just hit a 1. This is how I'm old.
on,
I
man.
don't.
Is that the?
I don't
Like
even.
a generation behind.
I don't even know what game. I still have the 360. We have the one.
Is
I don't
Xbox
even know
One
what
the latest
game.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what game systems I buy, dude. This is bad. But
Because it's really about what Kidder wants to play. anyway.
Yeah.
No, it was mine. I used to be this Assassin's Creed. This is the fun part of actually having for boys that reach a certain age. And again, I'm just getting to this point. Like all of a sudden, like he's the one telling me, he's like, "Dad, the new Call of Duty." He calls it COD, obviously, but I'm like, "Catch me up, COD." What? Oh, Call of Duty.
Who's got
Okay.
time to say all those?
Yeah,
syllables?
I don't have that. He's like, "Dad, the COD drops maybe." So he tells me I'm an Assassin's Creed fiend. Like I probably should be fired.
There's like
when
10
they
of them.
I
There's a
know.
lot.
There's a new one coming out. When they drop, I buy the most expensive version, and then I don't work for 6 weeks while
Oh
I
my
beat
gosh.
it. It's bad. But he comes to me. He's like 6 months ago, he's like, hey, I have a YouTube trailer I want you to watch. I'm like, what are you even talking about? He showed, I'm like, ho, 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 keep me in the loop, son. I need to know when that comes out. So he's like, we'll play together. It's got he's giving me all the deets on it. So it's fun to go through that journey.
That's pretty fun. That's
it,
cool.
It is cool. So I really got into puzzles with my daughter, though. She is a mastermind on like 2000
pieces?
puzzles. And so we do, and it's kind of funny because like in the pandemic we started doing it, and then she went back to real school, and I would do it a little bit while she was gone, and she was smart enough to know that I had worked. So we had to establish this rule where you weren't allowed to work on it when the other wasn't working on it with you. So it was kind of funny. But actually, I really dig puzzles these days with her. I steal them still. Don't tell her. She'll never listen to this. It's a podcast about dads.
About dads.
She's not our target market.
No.
I would say just for me, Legos.
Yeah.
My
Legos.
oldest is in the Legos right now. My middle is trying to get into, but my oldest is into traditional small size and is a wizard with putting puzzles together and following instructions.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, yes, if we're gonna do this, let's do it. And I grew up loving Legos, doing that, so I'd love to see that and seeing her joy there. So I was like, yes, let's build it. So that's for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Legos. I can't wait to start that with Ada.
Yeah.
What moment of your kid's life are you most excited to be a part of?
Oh, I got emotional.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be doing. Tugging at your heartstrings.
I really, because I only have one daughter, I really am crying on podcasts. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I like weddings. If you edit the rest of it out, I'm an Enneagram 7.
Yeah.
I'm into the party and run from pain. And the cool thing about your daughter's wedding is just like, and there are people that are like, oh, I don't want to give her away or whatever it is. I'm like, I really am going to smile big. And it's just really cool because she already talks about wine with me. I'm like, we'll have a glass of wine and I'm going to cheers you. It's going to be great. And I want that first dance, man. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So I was in the room for the birth of both my kids, and that is to date the most special thing with both of them.
Yeah.
But probably someday if my son signs an NFL contract, not gonna happen, right? Or a Call of Duty contract.
Yes.
I don't know. But
Hey, man.
But weddings are cool, right, man? It's cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever listen to Jason Isbell, like singer-songwriter? Do you know his song "Giving You Away"?
Yeah.
The first time I heard that song, I was like, "Oh, sweet, I'm just weeping here."
Yeah, it's
If
terrible.
you haven't heard it, Justin, it's a song
No.
about him going through the process of like you get home with your daughter and like I don't know what I'm doing, and it's like the process of acknowledging that one day you're going to give someone away, like you're going to give your daughter away at the altar, and it's just like I'm getting chills thinking about it because it's like just the sweetest song.
It is,
and it's like as if he zooms out. As if he's walking his daughter down the aisle, and he zooms out to every moment of fatherhood that led to this exact moment, and he puts it in a 3-minute song. It is very impressive.
It's very impressive.
It's very good.
And when you have a daughter, man, it hits different.
You're like,
or 3, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
So,
But my answer to that question, I think it probably comes from me being a 3 because I come from a success standpoint. And I want them to achieve independent success.
Yeah.
And when I think about the moment I want to be a part of with them is helping them or just be watching them find out what brings them true joy and passion. And when they achieve success at something they've worked really hard for. Because once you've worked really hard for something, you don't know the true outcome of that. But once you get it, and once you've worked and you've turned that turning point, that's a special moment that locks a memory in for somebody. And I can think back about those moments for me when I'm like, you've worked so hard for something and you didn't know if you were going to do it or not, and you achieved it. And that's usually a pivotal point for somebody, and I want to be able to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that they have worked for it. They have fought for it. And whatever that is, and I think that'll be different for each of them. I think it'll be amazing trying to see, they may get it, they may not, but once they do, I want to be a part of that. And I'll be a part of it when they don't.
Yeah.
And show them how that's okay. Yes, that's the first thing I want to be. That's what I look forward to.
That's great.
Well, This is normally where we let the guests plug their like Instagram or business or anything.
Yes.
You guys want to plug like your Instagram?
Oh, man. I feel
your
like we
business
started
or
there.
anything?
I feel like we
Yeah.
started with it.
If like we wanted to
Plug
follow
it,
you,
yes.
do you want to say like Wolf PT?
How do we find you?
I would love, you can Kidder27 on the social handles or Alpinist27. But I would, if you are a parent, I would love for you to come and visit my climbing gym because it's a great, I had a passion for climbing, but I didn't want to be in the climbing business until rather I had kids.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to find a way to pass that on. And I realized I had a passion for the community and engaging with it in a way where I could share it meaningfully. So I always want to tell people, I'm like, I really love it, and I just want to share that with people. And you can even go to the competitor, but it is great kid fun, and it's a great way to identify. I already talked about fitness in this thing, so I love it. But yeah, it's the Crag. It's in Nashville and in Franklin. iloverockclimbing.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you
Chris?
for giving us the opportunity for
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
Because being a part of, like we talked about before, a lot of different jobs, we do what we're passionate about. And being able to teach, and from a physical therapy standpoint, I get the opportunity to teach and have an impact on future physical therapists, but also being able to continue to practice, working with people on healthcare. So Wolfe PT, you can find us, just type that in Google, you'll find us here in Nashville. But you can follow us on Instagram as well if you want to. But primarily, those who actually need help just achieving function. We work a lot with high schoolers, collegiate, some pro, a lot of age groupers. I tracked four females that I work with currently right now who just did half iron Chattanooga today.
Oh, wow.
And they're working moms, and they have children. All of them have children. They have jobs. And so being a part of their lives, helping them achieve success, not just to avoid injury, but handle injury. 2 of them went into that race currently injured, and I'm tracking them, so I'm in that with them. And I love getting in the weeds. And all of my staff, my business partners, we love helping people achieve what brings them joy and passion. And if that's what people want to be a part of, and no matter what that passion is, we'll sit with you, we'll get in the weeds with you, we'll help you achieve that if we can be a part of it. Or we'll connect you with somebody that can. And that's the type of practice we want to build here in Nashville. That's what we really feel like healthcare should be about. So getting following us or communicating with us and letting us help somebody like in your family that needs to be a part of a healthcare provider who actually cares about them. That's what we do.
Great.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
I love
thank
being
you.
here.
It was really fun.
It was
We
great.
appreciate it, guys.
Michael,
Thank you.
Love it.
thank you.
Thanks.
We really hope you enjoyed that episode. Please make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Nashville Dads. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.